guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be working on 2 different garden chores. First off, we're going to be cleaning up and fertilizing all of our hellebores. And then second, we're going to start the pre-sprouting process for all of our ranunculus and anemones. Here's a look at our first area. This is where the bulk of our hellebores are. There's a couple other spots we'll go to, but what we're going to be focusing on is taking off all of last year's growth. You can see that the winter has done a little bit of a number on these leaves and they look a bit rough. But if you look on the inside of the plant, they're full of buds and fresh leaves. So we're basically just going to take all of the outer leaves. They tend to want to like flop to the side. This one here is a perfect example. Look at this. All the old leaves flop to the side, all the new growth pushes from the center. So we'll take off all of the outer growth and let all that fresh stuff come up. And then we are going to be using some plant tone fertilizer around each one of these. I think I've got somewhere around 40 to 42-ish, I can't remember, varieties of hellebore. And they are so beautiful when they're all in bloom. Oh my goodness. I do need to go gather my stuff though, and I'll show you some other little baby hellebores that we're going to be taking care of along the way. Right here underneath this great big maple tree, I planted some itty bitty hellebores last year. Look at this. Look at this sweet little thing. Oh my goodness. So we're going to just take these little old leaves off. And there's several in this area, but they're all really small. Look at this one. Oh, little bloom. A couple more little blooms in here. The rest of this bed is filling up with daffodil foliage right now. One more section. Oh, we've got some iris blooming and some lungwort. What? Look at this. I had no idea it bloomed this early. What? This is the Pinkadot. It's the newest variety that we've planted. Maybe we could clean these up as well so that these pretty blooms have a chance to shine and the center of these plants are completely full of buds. Oh my goodness, what a treat. And these Iris reticulata. I noticed that the foliage was coming up the other day, but I didn't see any color at all. They are so beautiful. Oh geez, Douglas. That goes to show that we should be doing garden tours on a daily basis. Get yourself something to drink, put a coat on if it's chilly, and go around your garden and see what's going on. Otherwise you might miss it. I had no idea that the lungwort were putting on a show already. Okay, we've got some Anna's Red hellebores right here, which these have been very interesting. See all the buds forming up here? But there's a couple plants in here, like 3 or 4, that don't put on blooms. Like they didn't, well, this one might be. Didn't put on blooms last year, so we'll see what they do this year. The 2 back here have some buds. So heading back to the barn, I wanted to check out this lungwort because this is a variety called Spot On, and I planted this one before we planted the Pinkadot. And this one, this is the winner. My goodness. Also, you'll notice that we have a nice juniper berry soiled top dress going on. This massive juniper is just loaded with them. I wish I could know exactly when that tree was planted. You know, our house was built, the old side of the house was built in 1919. The barn was built prior to that, so the barn's a little bit older than the house because there used to be another dwelling before this house was built right where the Hartley is. So right through there was a little house. So it makes you wonder, you know, like did they plant that? I mean, could that be a 100-year-old tree? I don't know, do junipers live that long? It'd be interesting to know. You know what? We're going to use some flower tone. All right, let's take a close look at this one first. So I just pick up the old leaves and follow them down, being careful not to get any of the new growth there. It's really an easy process, unless you have a cat trying to get up in your business. That can make it more, hey, quit! That can make it more difficult. It really is one of the more satisfying cleanup jobs because you're not just cutting something back all the way to the ground like you do with most perennials. You get to easily see what needs to be cut off, and then, you know, this beautiful plant emerges from the whole thing. Look at this. Isn't that wild? It's just absolutely beautiful, and it's loaded with buds. So we just need to do that a whole bunch more times. Honestly, this job can be done a little bit sooner than now because I've got some of those leucogyms, the snowflake leucogyms coming up in this area. So it's going to be much harder to avoid those. It's going to be a little bit more of a tender job trying to dodge all that foliage. All done, and they look so much better. You can now see their buds, you can see the fresh growth. In some cases you can see the flowers, and there's a bee on this one. Look at this, you guys. Do you see it? Oh. Now if this isn't a sign of spring, I don't know what is. All right, so before I fertilize these, I'm going to do just a light rake job. I'm probably not going to get all the leaves because in here, like if you look between the plants, you can see that the hellebores have naturalized. They've spread themselves all over in this space, so there's little baby plants everywhere. So I want to be careful of that. So I'm going to use my shrub rake to do that, and then we'll sprinkle some of the flower tone around each of the plants. This section is done, pruned, fertilized, raked, ready for some mulch. It needs a fresh layer to cover all the drip too, but now that all the spent foliage is gone, I was better able to tell how many are in this space. There's about 65 hellebores in this area, plus a ton of babies. But I know I don't have 65 varieties here because there are a few repeats. I think that I planted like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 Picotee pearls in here, which is this variety. They're so pretty. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. But gosh, there's some beautiful, beautiful varieties in here. A few of them are original to when we moved in, like this one right here. So I don't even know what variety it is, but that's kind of what made me plant more in this area, because there was, I think the original patch was maybe like right here. And then I kind of expanded back and around the lilac. And there are a bunch of hostas, like Diamond Lake hostas, I think primarily. Yeah, babe? The cats, are they wanting food? Okay, gotta take a quick feed the cats break. Anyway, if you get in here closer too, you can kind of see the fertilizer spread around the plants, and you can take the time to work it in the soil if you want. You either use your fingers or rake it lightly around each one of them. I tend to just let it sit. We get quite a lot of rain in the spring, and that eventually gets that fertilizer down in around the roots of the plant. Okay, let's go tackle the next area. I'll help you. You want to try a bite of this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Try a bite. Sit right here and fix your shoes.
Yummy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't eat.
Okay, this area is done. Not a whole lot to show for this space until those hellebores get bigger. You enjoying your snack? Yeah.
Oh, my life.
Okay, we're gonna head down to the next area. All right, these will be satisfying, Samantha.
Hello. I'm not doing that.
Are you being silly? All right, all pruned and fertilized, and I forgot that I actually have 5 more hellebores on this side of the pathway that are beautiful. And I can't remember if these are transplanted from some other area in the garden or if I transplanted these out of pots last year. But I don't know, they struggled all season long, and we were doing supplemental water, and I thought for sure they were goners, but I am so thrilled to see that they are alive and blooming. And there are 2 more on this side. Looks like they're different varieties. This one's got a pink and chartreuse bloom. Looks like this one's gonna be cream and white. And out of 7 hellebores, that's how many are right here, 5 of them have blooms. Some of them are further along, like this one right here. This one has got new leaf growth coming up, but I don't see any new, I don't know. There might be some blooms that come out of those. Kind of the same story for this one, but those 2 in the back look good. This one's working on it, just a little slower. And there's that one. Okay, the last thing I want to clean up before we head to the greenhouse to work on our ranunculus and anemones is the lungwort. I'm not going to do a complete cutback. I'm just going to clean up any, damaged foliage and just make them look nice. Much better. Now you can really see those blooms, and I just love the flowers on lungwort in the spring. I mean, how many plants do you get 2 colors of flowers? Lungwort and borage. Borage kind of has the same color of flowers as well, kind of that light pink and light blue, and their leaves feel the same as well. They're kind of Velcro-y, a little prickly in a way, but boy, they are an amazing part shade to shade plant, the lungwort are, for us in our area. Borage does great in the sun, but it will take over your space. Okay, let's go get the ranunculus and anemones started. I've had them soaking this whole time. They're all sitting in buckets and saucers in water. Here they all are. They've been soaking for about the last 4 hours in here. And the whole process of soaking and pre-sprouting is just to gain you time. If you do this process inside, then you can plant them out with roots already going for it, and they're just way further along than if you were to plant them outside. And it is a little too early to plant them outside, at least in my area. They don't want to be exposed to a really hard frost, which is usually 28 degrees or lower. So we'll be watching the weather, but this process takes about 10 days, 10 to 14. But it's amazing how much these change just in that few hours of soaking. I mean, they start off these really dry, hard, shrunken, shriveled up looking corms, and then they plump up and they look healthy and vibrant. The roots do. It's just amazing. So this right here is a ranunculus corm, which this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Planted one last year and it turned into 5, which we can separate. And then anemones look a little different. They look more like, I don't know, more flat and more like rocks almost. This one's pretty large too. See if I can find a smaller one. Yeah, I think that's pretty typical right there. You can see last year's stock right here, and then you plant it with kind of this more dark brown side pointed down. There's another one. Yeah, they're just kind of odd looking. So the process of pre-sprouting is really easy. You just soak your corms for 3 to 4 hours. Then we are going to put a little bit of pre-moistened soil at the bottom of a planting tray. We line our corms up. They can be side to side, touching each other. And then we just barely cover them with a little bit more soil, and we keep them damp-ish. We don't want them to be super wet, but for about 10 to 14 days, we're going to put them somewhere that stays like 50 to 55 degrees. For us, the closest thing I can get, or the closest area I can get to that, is our basement. And what they do in that 10 to 14 days, and I check on them once a day just to make sure I don't need to add any extra moisture, but they start sprouting white roots. So not like little tubers. I mean, these look like little mini dahlia tuber bunches, but they'll sprout these bright white roots that come shooting out all over the place, and it just gives your root system, your plant, a head start. And at the end of that time, we're going to plant them outside, and it's still probably a little bit too early here for us to leave them unprotected, so we'll probably put some frost cloth over the top of them, and hopefully we'll get some flowers pretty quickly. I want to say, is it like 90 days after you plant, you have flowers? Somewhere around in there. So most of ours, like we've got some anemones here. This is a double mix. Most of them are labeled. This is my only tray right here of I have no idea what these are. Everything else has a name. Like this whole, I think these are all the salmon. I've got La Belle Champagne. We've got all kinds of varieties here, which I'll run through. These are rose once we have them all lined up in our trays. But let me show you this. This is pretty cool. So I planted one ranunculus corm last year. Let's see how many this turns into. They're such a productive crop. We just ease them apart gently. There's one, maybe? 1, 2. So there's 3 right there. 4, 5, 6. So the one I planted last year turned into 6. It created 5 new ones. So once you get your hands on some of these ranunculus or anemones, you will have them coming out of your ears. Yeah, look at this one. They look like little spiders or octopus or something. Yeah, so that one turned into 5. Okay, so now we need to start the process of draining the water and getting them lined up in their trays. Okay, we've got our soil at the bottom, and you can see it's not very deep at all. It's just a nice fine layer. And then I take my ranunculus corms and just line them up side by side. And I take the opportunity at this point to separate them as well. And we can really pack them in here. Okay, let's finish up this variety. So this variety is done. These are called romantic mix, so I'm going to make sure to keep the label in there. And then I just start cutting off pieces of my soil bag here, and I use them as dividers so that I can use up the rest of this tray and I won't get things mixed up. First tray is filled up. We got 3 different varieties in here. So now we're just going to take a little bit more potting soil and just barely cover them. And there we go, first tray is done. I have no idea how many trays we're gonna end up with, but we have some varieties that we have a tremendous amount of corms. Like I'm thinking the salmon variety we might fill up more than one tray, especially after we have a chance to separate them. All right, let's get it done. My word. Now, I can't remember from years past how many trays I've done in this process, but we've got 12 here. And you saw how tightly we put them in there. We're gonna have a ton of flowers. So there's 1 tray of anemones, 11 trays of ranunculus. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of flowers. So now you might have noticed I did not pre-moisten the soil because our soil was pretty moist already. Like, it's holding together. It's been sitting out on a pallet where it can receive rain, so a lot of times it has a lot of moisture in it. The other trays that aren't as wet, I will use my mister and kind of moisten them just slightly. You don't want them to be super soggy. And even though I'm checking them every day during this process, I usually have to water them maybe twice the whole time because it stays really cool. Things don't dry out as quick, especially down in the basement. There's not a lot of air movement either. So they're actually going to stay in here tonight. I had to rush through the rest of this project because I didn't realize what time it was, and we have plans in like 20 minutes to be at dinner. And look at me, I'm probably so dirty. So I've got to go clean up. So these will stay in here tonight where the heater kicks on just enough to keep it about 50-55 degrees, which is perfect for these. So they'll go down into the basement tomorrow, and then they'll stay there 10 to 14 days. And we'll notice the white roots. You can kind of like paw around in there and see what they're doing after like about day 8, 9, 10. Is usually when I start checking. And then once we have enough root development on these, then we can bring them out and get ready to plant them out in the garden. I'm so excited. But just putting them somewhere where they're a little bit warmer just speeds up the process, and it's so easy to do. But now I want to run through varieties so you can see some of the color we're going to expect this year. So in this tray we have Romantic Mix Ranunculus. This one I could not read. It looks like it says like pastas, but I don't think that's right. A wedding something, is it Ranunculus Wedding Rastus? Pastas? I don't know. These are black ranunculus, and then these 2 trays are completely full of salmon, as is the front side of this tray. And then the back side here is the rose ranunculus, and then rose ranunculus here, Labelle Picotee, which is probably my least favorite of all of them, and a little bit more of the Picotee. And then we've got Marshmallow, which is my favorite variety. I love them. They're like the perfect pink. More Marshmallow here. This was the start of our miscellaneous that I don't know. And I ended the miscellaneous here. And then we've got more Romantic Mix, more Romantic Mix, more Romantic Mix, Labelle Champagne. These are beautiful. More Labelle Champagne here. These are Purple Jean. And then the anemones we have are Edge of Night. This just says anemone. So anemones of unidentified variety. These are Decane White and a double mix. And Samantha helped me a little bit with the ranunculus, and she was doing a great job. She honed in on exactly how to face them, to face the roots the right direction, and that's fun. Anyway, what a great day. Got the hellebores done, got the ranunculus and anemone started, and you guys, these are so easy to store. So much easier than dahlias. All we do is we let them sit out there, kind of like bulbs, and we let the leaves kind of die back a little bit, which means I'm going to be moving. Usually I have these in the most focal row, like the one we drive by a lot, but you have to let them soak up energy from the sun and feed their bulbs before you pull them. And so they're kind of like, you know, dying daffodil or tulip foliage, and they do not look good for a little while. So anyway, I'm going to side them a little bit away from the focal point. But anyway, once they have yellowed and sort of started to die back, we pull them out. We lay them on the floor in the barn, let them dry for a couple days. Then we cut the tops off. Don't even bother to clean the soil off the roots. We just put them in buckets and they sit there on a shelf. They don't have to be in the root cellar. They don't have to have any kind of special treatment. I was a little stressed about mine this year because I kind of forgot about them, and it did get, what was the coldest degree we got? -6, and there's no heat in the barn. And I didn't know if that would be detrimental to these, and they don't seem to have minded it at all. So anyway, we will be following up on this when we take them out of their trays and get them planted out in the garden. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.